He was the undefeated war god of the steppes, expanding the Khan's territory and reclaiming lost lands, yet he was forced to give the woman he loved to his own elder brother. Just as he believed sacrificing his love might bring peace, an assassination attempt and growing suspicion from his brother marked the beginning of his trials. This is the legendary tale of Kasym Khan, the most renowned ruler in the history of the Kazakh Khanate. Our story begins in the 15th century, as the Golden Horde crumbled and heroes rose across the grasslands. One faction, the White Horde, founded by descendants of Genghis Khan, was declining amid fierce power struggles. To resist tyranny, two heroes of royal blood, Kari and Janibek, resolved to revive their tribe. In 1465, they led their tribe to break away and establish the Kazakh Khanate, becoming the new dominant power on the steppes. Years passed, and the old Khan died. Power was passed to their sons, Burundik and Kasim. Burundik ascended the throne as the new Khan, while his brother Kasim, famed for his exceptional military prowess, became the supreme commander of the army. Yet, peace did not last. Their longtime enemy, Muhammad Shaybani, the grandson of Abulkair, had his eyes fixed on their land. Unwilling to accept the independence of the Kazakh Khanate, he was determined to bring the steppes back under the rule of the Muhammad family. On a stormy, snow-laden night, Muhammad's army appeared like ghosts, launching a surprise attack on a border camp of the Kazakh Khanate. Sleeping herders were jolted awake by screams and the clash of weapons outside their tents. Invaders ran rampant, burning, killing, and looting. Peaceful homes instantly transformed into hells on earth. Men were slaughtered, women abducted, and children wailed in terror. The surviving teenager Alpamis was ordered to ride out of the siege and report the news to the main city. Meanwhile, in Samarkand, Muhammad's men presented him with the spoils of war, but his ambitions stretched far beyond mere plunder. He sought the complete annihilation of the Kazakh Khanate. He devised a sinister plot, attempting to sow discord between the Kazakh Khanate and the other nomadic tribe, the Mangits, inciting them to destroy each other so he could seize the land unopposed. News of the border raid quickly reached Khan Burundik's court. He consulted with his brother Kasim on how to respond. Burundik keenly observed that Muhammad was likely waiting for their retaliation, perhaps even laying a trap. To avoid falling into it, they needed to act first and form an alliance with the powerful Mangit tribe. This perilous and critical diplomatic mission fell to Kasim, a man of both wisdom and courage. To avoid drawing attention, Burundik suggested that Kasim travel with only a small escort. Before departure, their mother prayed for him, urging Kasim to stay vigilant. Unbeknownst to them, the Mangit chieftain, Abdikarim, had already been bribed by Muhammad. Upon arriving at the Mangit camp, Kasim was greeted with false warmth. At the negotiation table, Abdikarim feigned nostalgia for Kasim's father, yet repeatedly evaded and refused to form an alliance. He claimed he couldn't control his subordinate chiefs, implying Kasim's mission would end in failure. Kasim sensed the hostility, but for the sake of unity, chose to withdraw, temporarily. That night, as Kasim's party camped in the wild, a deadly conspiracy quietly unfolded. Deep into the night, as guards and soldiers succumbed to the toxin and drifted into unconsciousness, assassins sent by Abdikarim launched their attack. Though weakened by poison, Kasim fought fiercely. But outnumbered and overpowered, his forces suffered heavy losses. They buried their fallen comrades and returned to the Khanate, burdened with humiliation and fury. When Burundik heard of the ambush, he flew into a rage and immediately wanted to launch a retaliatory war. But Kasim calmly stopped him. He argued that this was exactly what Muhammad wanted, luring them into war with the Mangits, so Muhammad could exploit their weakened state and seize their southern cities. Kasim declared that the true enemy was not the Mangits, but Muhammad, the mastermind lurking in the shadows. At the royal council, he overruled dissenting voices and pointed directly to Siganak, the stronghold held by Muhammad. Siganak had once been the capital of Urus Khan, now occupied by the enemy, a deep shame for the entire Khanate. Burundik accepted Kasim's counsel, appointing him commander-in-chief to lead 3,000 elite troops in a surprise assault on Siganak. Before the army's departure, Kasim delivered a rousing pre-battle speech, vowing to reclaim the lost honor of their ancestors. As the massive army approached, Siganak's garrison commander turned out to be a young and inexperienced man. Most of their main forces had already been redeployed south by Muhammad, leaving the city critically undermanned. Knowing there were many Kazakh compatriots inside the city, Kasim refused to launch a direct assault that would cause massive civilian casualties. He sent a letter into the city, promising to spare the lives of all soldiers and civilians if they surrendered. After assessing the situation, the young commander ultimately chose to open the gates and surrender. Without shedding a single drop of blood, Kasim reclaimed this ancient capital of 100 years, sending waves of celebration throughout the Khanate. Yet this tremendous victory planted a thorn of jealousy in Burundik's heart. At the victory banquet, Burundik publicly announced his intention to marry a beautiful young woman, Altenbike. The news struck Kasim like a bolt from the blue, for Altenbike was the very woman he had deeply loved for years. In a snow-covered mountain valley, Kasim met Altenbike for the final time. Cruel fate demanded sacrifice. For the peace of the Khanate, and to prevent a rift between brothers, they had to give up their love. Kasim's heart shattered like ice, yet an even greater crisis was brewing. His mother received a letter from Sultan Mohammed. She secretly contacted Kasim, claiming that Mohammed desired peace talks, and arranged a secret meeting to take place during the Khan's wedding. Unaware of the trap, and for the sake of the Khanate's greater good, Kasim chose to miss his brother's wedding and attended the meeting. During the encounter, Mohammed once again employed his strategy of sowing discord, urging Kasim to overthrow Burundik and claim the throne for himself. He promised that if Kasim became Khan, he would never set foot on Kazakh steppes again. Kasim firmly rejected the offer. He remained loyal to his bloodline and his oath, refusing to betray his brother. However, news of his secret meeting with the enemy had already reached Burundik's ears. On his wedding night, Burundik, consumed by jealousy upon hearing the news, burned with rage. Already wary of Kasim's overwhelming achievements and popularity, he now grew deeply suspicious. When Kasim returned and tried to explain, Burundik refused to listen. He accused Kasim of colluding with the enemy and defying his authority. The bond between the two brothers began to fracture. Soon after, the Mongit tribe, once betrayers of Kasim, descended into internal chaos. Akbar, Abdikarim's lieutenant, arrived bearing Abdikarim's severed head, pleading for Burundik's military aid to quell the rebellion. Burundik assigned the matter entirely to Kasim, granting him full authority to handle it. Kasim looked coldly at this treacherous turncoat. He knew well, once disloyal, never to be trusted again. To deter all those with ulterior motives, he made a shocking decision. In front of Burundik, within the sacred royal yurt, he personally executed Akbar. This act enraged Burundik beyond measure. He roared, demanding to know how Kasim dared to stain the ancestral throne with blood. The conflict between the two brothers was now fully exposed. During a festival celebration, public adoration for Kasim reached its peak, with bards composing songs in his honor. At that very moment, an elder stepped forward to file a grievance. He accused another brother of the Khan Mahmud, the governor of Siganak, of seizing his pasture land. Burundik once again tasked Kasim with the judgment, attempting to place him in a no-win situation. Without hesitation, Kasim publicly ruled that Mahmud must return the land and face severe punishment. He declared that to unite the people, governance must start from the top. Everyone, including the nobility, must abide by the Khan's laws. These words earned thunderous cheers from the crowd, but left Burundik, seated upon the throne, feeling deeply threatened. At that very moment, tragic news arrived. Queen Altenbike was gravely ill. Hearing the news, Burundik rushed to her bedside. In her final moments, the tragic woman called not for her husband, but for her first love. Altenbike's death severed the last thread binding the two brothers together. One had lost his beloved, the other, his wife and dignity. Brothers who once fought side by side have now become political enemies who are incompatible with each other. And far away, Muhammad smiled, waiting for them to destroy each other so he could claim the entire steppe for himself. Kasim, once the Khan's most trusted brother, was now publicly stripped of all authority, simply because he had secretly met with their mortal enemy, Muhammad Shaybani. Faced with his elder brother's ruthless accusations, Kasim remained silent, and Burundik Khan, his great brother, merely coldly demanded that everyone present bear witness to this moment. As soon as the words were spoken, shock and uproar filled the hall. All felt injustice for Kasim. Even his mother, Jahan Begim, could not hold back and stepped forward to defend her son. She questioned the Khan, why treat Kasim with such cruelty? Yet by now, Burundik Khan's eyes were already clouded by the desire for power and jealousy. Ali Rashid also stepped forward, pleading with the Khan for a fair judgment. He insisted that in both soul and action, Kasim had always been pure and loyal before the Khan, but the enraged Khan would not listen to any counsel. Finally, heartbroken and disillusioned, Kasim spoke. He requested permission to leave, to go to the frontier. Rather than staying here and being an eyesore, he would rather be a strong arm protecting Khanate like his father Janabek. He would prove through action that he would forever safeguard the peace of this land and its people. Looking at his resolute younger brother, Burundik Khan descended from his throne, his words dripping with sarcasm and finality. Thus, the great General Kasim was exiled by his own brother. Time passed swiftly. The exiled Kasim arrived at the fertile Alatau region. There, he married, raised a family, and lived the life of an ordinary man. The people loved and admired him, praising his wisdom and kindness. He protected orphans and widows, offering aid to all who sought justice. His reputation spread ever farther, drawing distinguished guests from every direction. One day, a special visitor arrived at Kasym's camp. It was Maksud Bek, the very man who had once sworn allegiance to their mortal enemy, Muhammad. As a guest, Kasym received him as he would anyone else. Upon seeing Kasym, Maksud immediately showered him with praise. He said that Kasym's name now rivaled that of their great ancestor Yochi Khan, echoing across the world. Then, he presented a magnificent sword forged by a master craftsman from Isfahan. Kasym accepted the blade, marveling at its beauty. It truly was a priceless treasure. Meanwhile, urgent military news reached the Khanate. Muhammad had laid siege to Siganak and killed Mahmud, the son of Burendik Khan. The enraged Burendik Khan decided to lead the army in person and sent someone to deliver a letter to Kasym as soon as possible. At the same time, Kasym was enjoying a rare moment of family peace. He gifted his young son hand-carved wooden horses and toy swords, hoping he would grow up to be a bulwark for the people. Just then, the Khan's messenger arrived. After reading the letter, Kasym's expression turned grave. He knew his country needed him. However, consumed by his thirst for revenge, Burendik Khan decided to launch an immediate attack at dawn, without waiting for Kasym to arrive. When Muhammad learned that Burendik had advanced alone, and that Kasym was not with his army, he was overjoyed. He saw this as a gift from heaven. If he could strike down Burendik in one blow, the Kazakh alliance would collapse on its own. Soon, the two armies clashed in a bloody battle on the open steppe. Though Burendik's troops fought bravely, they were ultimately no match for Muhammad's forces and quickly fell into retreat. In the chaos, Burendik Khan was unfortunately wounded by an arrow. On the battlefield, Muhammad taunted and mocked Burendik, calling him a coward. At this critical moment, dust rose on the distant horizon. Another army was arriving. Kasym's banner appeared on the battlefield. The soldiers erupted in thunderous cheers. Their pillar of strength had returned. Inside the command tent, the gravely wounded Burendik met his travel-worn brother. He told Kasym that his nephew Mahmud had died heroically in battle. All past suspicion and estrangement dissolved in the face of national crisis. Burendik handed over full military command to Kasym. Meanwhile, when Muhammad learned that Kasym's forces had arrived, he immediately panicked. Knowing he was no match for Kasym, he fled in the dead of night, abandoning his camp in disarray. Without a single battle, Kasym reclaimed the lost territories. The soldiers revered him like a god, shouting his name in unison. From his sickbed, Burendik listened to the roaring cheers outside, his heart filled with complex emotions. He knew, from this moment on, true power in the Khanate had completely shifted into his brother's hands. From then on, Kasym once again took full command of the military. He united all the tribes and launched a comprehensive counteroffensive against Muhammad. They advanced like a storm, recapturing all occupied cities, Saran, Yasi, Atrar, one after another. Eventually, Muhammad was forced to sue for peace, bringing an end to the long and exhausting war, yet the defeated Muhammad remained defiant. Soon, he devised an even more sinister plan. He declared a Gazavat, a holy war, under the guise of religion, against the Kazakhs. He banned Kazakh merchants from entering cities to trade and incited people to capture Kazakhs and sell them into slavery. This plunged the Kazakh Khanate into a severe economic crisis and widespread panic. Faced with this crisis, Burendik Khan, bound by a peace agreement, hesitated and dared not break the deadlock. Kasym was furious. He stormed into the royal tent and confronted his elder brother. Under his brother's fierce questioning, the Khan finally chose to compromise. Empowered, Kasym immediately summoned all tribal leaders. He declared before them that this so-called holy war was nothing but lies and slander, a tool used by the enemy to divide them. With passionate words, he pointed out that the root of all their suffering lay in internal division. How could there be unity, he asked, if every tribe only looked after its own interests? His speech ignited the fire in every heart. Then, Kasym announced a decision that would change history. He would establish a unified legal code for the Kazakh Khanate. The people responded enthusiastically. This was exactly what they had long awaited. With universal support, Kasim rallied everyone to unite as one, preparing for the final showdown against the enemy. Meanwhile, Muhammad's tribe faced a crisis of its own. Qazilbash's from the south had already reached his borders. With no choice, he was forced to divide his forces. Muhammad himself marched south to confront the primary threat, sending only a general named Sherali to face Kasim. The great battle was imminent, and Kasim's son Mamash was about to step onto the battlefield for the first time. Kasim's wife prayed for her son and husband, beseeching the heavens to protect them and bring them home safely. Before departure, Kasim recalled a story his father Janibek had once told him in childhood about the land. His father had said, "The enemy may demand your finest horse or even your wife, but you must never yield even an inch of your land."
Жер елдіктің негізі деген екен сонда хан. Осыны есіңде сақта Қасым. Ешқашан ұмытпа.
To the thunderous beat of war drums, Kasim delivered his pre-battle address. He told his warriors they were fighting for their homeland, for their ancestors and their descendants. Heroes are born for the people and die for the people. Such names would be remembered forever.
Yer! Ел бақыт үшін туып, ел үшін өледі. Еркіндік үшін, халық жадында мәңгі қалу үшін, жанымызды құрбан етсек, біз ешқашан өлмек емеспіз. Алаш!
The soldiers' blood burned with fervor. Thousands of horses charged, their hooves kicking up clouds of dust that blotted out the sky. The two great armies, like torrents of steel, crashed into each other with devastating force. Archers unleashed a storm of arrows, felling countless soldiers. Then came the brutal, close-quarters melee, flashing blades, flying blood and flesh, lives extinguished with every passing moment. Soon, one of Kasim's commanders noticed that the enemy's commander was not Muhammad himself. Kasim understood. Fate had once again allowed that cunning foe to escape. On the battlefield, Kasim's son, Mamash, fought valiantly. He found Uncle Hassan, who had raised him since childhood, gravely wounded and near death. Hassan told Mamash he was honored to fall in battle, and asked him to tell Kasim that he had always been proud to follow him. Under the relentless assault of Kasim's army, the enemy finally broke and began to retreat. Their general was cut down by Kasim in a single stroke. The war was over. Kasim found Hassan's lifeless body. Overcome with grief, he addressed all the surviving warriors, urging future generations to always remember the heavy price paid for unity. When the news reached Muhammad, he was filled with regret upon learning of his army's total annihilation. He lamented, "Had I joined forces with Kasim from the beginning, perhaps today's outcome would have been different." After this battle, Kasim's prestige reached its peak. Though Burundik still sat on the throne, true power across the steppes now rested in Kasim's hands. He began enforcing the legal code he had created, settling disputes and earning genuine authority. Yet time spared no one. Kasim's mother passed away peacefully at an advanced age, and his lifelong enemy, his blood brother Muhammad, ultimately died on a foreign battlefield. Kasim recalled his childhood when his mother had taught them, her sons, to live in harmony.
Muhammed, Kasım, екеуің туған бөлесіңдер. Арғы түптеріңде бір.
He had lived his entire life by her teachings, yet fate had driven them to fight one another, separated forever by death. Not long after, the aging Burundik Khan, sensing his end was near, traveled from afar and summoned Kasim to his side. He sighed, "Every warrior has his own path, and mine has come to its end." Before the eyes of all, the Council of Elders unanimously elected Sultan Kasim as the new great Khan of the Kazakh people. The old Khan himself placed the scepter of power into Kasim's hands. At that moment, Kasim was lifted high by the crowd. He had finally become the supreme ruler of this land. Upon ascending the throne, Kasim's first act was to implement his legal code throughout the entire Khanate. This legal code would later be known as the Bright Road of Kasym Khan, meticulously outlining laws concerning property, water and land, military affairs, diplomacy, and more. He punished wrongdoing, upheld justice, fostered peace with neighboring states, and brought a life of peace and stability to his people. He had fulfilled his dream. Under the watchful eyes of the old Khan Burundik, Kasim, with wisdom and determination, ushered in a glorious era for the Kazakh Khanate. His life was an epic legend, forever celebrated and passed down through generations.